Good morning to everybody, ladies and gentlemen. The market share of cable and satellite networks in Vietnam has been shrinking. At the same time, changing user habits and a surge in sales of mobile phones and smart TVs are driving an uptake in online video consumption. So today, we'll be exploring how VOD is upending the market in Vietnam, if indeed it is. Please join me in offering a very warm virtual welcome to our stellar panel. McKee, the CEO of digital marketplace Vuulr, Harini Gopalakrishnan, CFO of VOD platform Galaxy Play, Greg Armshaw, Head of Media Asia at Bright Cove, and Bekhan Go, SVP and co-founder of the BHD Media Group. A warm welcome to you all, and thank you for coming to share your insights with us today. So let me start with you, Bekhan. BHD truly seems to have it all. You started out in 1996 as a production and distribution company, and now have a cinema chain and a streaming platform within the family. You were the first to bring licensed reality formats and Korean drama series to Vietnam, and one of the first local companies to venture into the VOD space. So it begs the question, why, after building a successful production company, why did you decide to make the move into VOD?
Hi. Hi, everybody. Thank you for inviting us here. To answer the questions, 5 years ago, legal VOD is still very new in Vietnam. By that time, we produce a lot of content on drama series, game shows, movie. But then when the, when our content finished, it window on cinema and on TV, it's all go on piracy on VOD. We come to meet with the telco by that time. They still did not give a real value to the content that we produce. Vietnam is the developing country, so we thought, wow, maybe we should end up doing ourselves. We had to provide a VOD service so that at least we can put all the content that we produce or we distribute into the platform, and shows that there are good value in VOD. And that's why we started our branded VOD platform, Danet, with all our content, and we also acquire content from studios, other movie and drama series around the world into our platform. Yeah.
Fantastic. So you decided to adopt a new technology, but your key offering was still your content, right? Coming from a production perspective. So, but you have said in previous discussions that different platforms require different content. And given that you've got these 3 different silos, your well-known acquired formats do not seem to have found a home on VOD. Is there a reason for that?
I must say that our Danet platform, we have AVOD, TVOD, and SVOD, and each of the platform require different, content.
Yes.
For us, on our VOD platform, drama series are more, drama series and movie are more pay attention, especially SVOD and TVOD. For AVOD, for VOD only, the market is too small. You need to go with big TV and go for TV, then format will work. I hope that maybe in the next 5 years, format might find its, places in AVOD for big shows. AVOD right now, we can produce smaller scale shows that are, regular, and the market is still there. Yeah.
The market is still there. That's really interesting to hear. But of course, it does sound like the content offering has to be adapted depending on the platform. So for you, content is the most important. Turning to you, Greg, I think Bekhan has indicated before that content possibly surpasses technology. Bright Cove is all about technology. In 2019, you commissioned a YouGov survey on mobile-centric customer preferences across Asia to understand the areas on which OTT providers needed to focus. And one of those markets was Vietnam. Can you give us a little bit of an insight into what the technology capabilities were that users in Vietnam most wanted to see as part of that offering, of an OTT offering?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Good to be here. So actually 2019, we did a survey. We've done it over a number of years. And to really help people on this journey, as we were, when I think I joined a little bit after Bikan decided to launch Brightcove. So this last 5 years has been a very interesting time, and most of the people that we talk to, even big TV companies, have no idea about what the end consumer actually wants. So we did some consumer research to try and find out on their behalf. And one of the reassuring things is that the reason that people search out new services is for content. Either because their families are not being sufficiently entertained, or just because they're hungry for content themselves. So without a doubt, that was the first question we asked. Why are you interested in services delivered on digital? And it was the search for content. And interestingly, and maybe TV people coming from a TV background don't get this, is that the way that people found that content was through social media. So integrating with social media is critical, because people are finding out about content through family and friends. It's not big recommendation engines, which is the technology solution of that. It is what are my friends, what are my family talking about? That's how I go to new content. But you need to know about that kind of data. One of the things that is prevalent in Vietnam as well as across the region is data. People concerned about the total cost of streaming. So how much is their data going to cost? Can I download a file offline and watch it offline? Can I set a setting on my app so that I actually reduce the amount of data I use to watch the content? One of the really interesting things, and I'm sure we'll cover this at some point, is that across Southeast Asia, Vietnam indexed incredibly high on big screen preferences. And it was absolutely an outlier. I don't know the full reasons behind it. I don't know whether it's because of the big manufacturers or some other reason, but it was definitely interested. Also, and we asked a few questions around this, is that one of the big preferences, and this again indexed especially high, was that people watching content were really interested in buying the products or associated with that content. So we were kind of foreshadowing a little bit live commerce, as that was starting to become a trend in some of the markets. And there was a especially strong interest of those that subscribed. People were like really interested in buying the products that they're inspired by on this great TV quality content.
That's really interesting, and it bodes well for e-commerce offerings in the future. So thank you for that. Harini, just listening to all that, you've obviously are aware of the markets in Vietnam in terms of the keenness and the ability of people to pay for products. Yet you've bravely embraced your new status as an OTT operator, having started off in Vietnam as more of a set-top box operator. And you've decided you're just going to go full tilt and become an SVOD player. Unlike a lot of the other players in Asia who've either gone the AVOD route or the freemium model route. Can you explain why Galaxy was confident that that was the correct decision for them?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Interesting that you phrase it that way, Celeste. So let me give you a bit of background on Galaxy, right? We are actually the first mover in the VOD space in Vietnam. So we launched way back in 2014 as a set-top box provider. And actually quite early on, I think around 2016, when smart TV started becoming popular here, we moved to being an OTT provider. We wanted to use technology to really deliver the best consumer experience. And we wanted to put content at the heart of it. So we wanted to deliver the best content in an ad-free premium kind of viewing experience. And that was a very conscious decision we made very early on, perhaps early for the market. but it's something we've chosen to be very disciplined about. So even today on our platform, there is no advertising. We follow purely a subscription approach. And for all the players who say, Asian consumers don't pay for content, sorry, we disagree. If you have to have good content. So we believe if you deliver the right content and a great consumer experience, then users will pay. And that's what we've been seeing.
And I think that's fantastic that you have a huge amount of faith in your offering, and it's being offered at the right price point with the right amount of flexibility as well. And we'll come into that in a bit more detail later. So Ian, for those of us in our audience who are not familiar with Vuulr, it is an online marketplace linking buyers and sellers of content. Now, Ian, you've said numerous times that your main objective at Vuulr is to democratize access to distribution. Can you just give us a quick explanation as to what you mean by that? And perhaps give us an example of an unlikely partnership that you've seen forged on the platform.
Thanks, Celeste. Thanks for having me on the panel. Yes, I mean, we're in the content business, and clearly, yes, content is king. But that content has no value unless it can be put in front of people who are willing to value it either by watching the ads or paying the subscription. So connecting the people with the audience to the people who are making the content is an integral part of the kind of the supply chain of the industry. And that's where we fit. What we observed, though, is that whilst it's been done offline and through middlemen, it was very high friction and quite expensive. And if you were not the right people, the right person in the right place, sometimes you could be a fantastic filmmaker or content creator, but find it very hard to get your content in front of a buyer, even around the corner from you, let alone in another country or the other side of the world. So that's what the Vuulr platform as a digital platform is there to support, is to democratize the access. So you don't need to be a Hollywood studio with $1 billion invested in a distribution network of people and offices in each of the locations. Instead, now you can come to Vuulr. It's free to register and it's free to list your title on the platform. And then we use our marketing tools and skills and our own budget to market the content on our platform to buyers around the world. And it's only when we help generate revenue for the seller, for the filmmaker, do we earn our commission. We only take 10%. Very happy that BHD is on our platform. Thank you very much for the support. We have, I think, more than 50 of their titles listed. And I think just a little while ago, they did a really interesting remake, Descendants of the Sun, very popular Korean. And through the platform, a buyer based in India looked at this content, decided it would work for their audience, and negotiated with BHD for a transaction. So we're very happy to show that we're helping Vietnamese content creators find business opportunities everywhere in the world. So that's really on the one side, which is export. But also on the other side, I just checked on the platform. We've now done more than 12 deals where different Vietnamese buyers in Vietnamese businesses have been acquiring international content, because also, of course, although in Vietnam people like to consume made-at-home content, there's always some appetite for international content. But this is not just kind of traditional American kind of made in Hollywood fare. This is content coming from Europe, maybe content coming from Turkey. So interesting connections that are being made around the world simply through a digital platform.
And that's brilliant. That gives the local audience access to a very different storytelling, but still great stories, and hopefully at a price point that is much more affordable. So moving to you, Bighan, the content offering, as good as it may be, in a market like Vietnam, I assume it also needs to be affordable. Your choice of AVOD, SVOD, and TVOD determine your pricing points. But given that piracy continues to be fairly pervasive in Vietnam, Do you think consumers are now at a stage where they're ready and willing to pay for content? And I know, Harini, you have already mentioned that that is very much your view, but have you had the same experience, Bikhan?
Yeah, I mean, payment policy for local VOD is a bit difficult, more difficult than international, because of the concurrency. Governments still have some restrict, but I think that the audience are start willing to pay. For us, we will be giving AVOD, SVOD, and TVOD, because we are having different content, and giving different, to different target audience with a different kind of content. Like for our AVOD, we as Gray just say, we produce content that is a lot on format, and and also we do a lot of social media content as well. Danet, we are very big on social media, and the traffic come from social media to our platform on AVOD is a lot. 5 years ago, we did not put any of our content on YouTube. Nowadays, we do put maybe 5 episodes on YouTube, and we introduce audience to our platform. Or we can, do a lot of other content. Some series, we put the whole series, so that, and our CPM on YouTube is high. But then for VOD, we produce, for SVOD, we produce a lot of big original content, like Descendant of the Sun or Glee. And our Descendant of the Sun, because Vietnam market is still very small, so we cannot keep the content for ourselves. We share our content. Galaxy Place is actually one of the buyers for Descendant of the Sun in Vietnam. So we produce original content, but we share the same content in our platform for SVOD. And TVOD, because we buy a lot of old rights for movies, and also we have a connection with the studio. That's why we, also have TVOD for the most current film, same day with the US. We are having, but our plan is actually, because we are a branded VOD platform, so we have our own subscription, our own audience, but we also work with other partners, like we work with Appetite Play, with MyTV, with VTV Cup On, to carry our branded VOD platform. Yeah. Fantastic. So we get money from, subscriber as well as AVOD. Yeah.
That's good to hear. And I think, that goes to what you've been saying, Harini, as well. As the consumer is happy to pay for content if it's the right content. But you, even within your own singular VOD model at Galaxy, you have different pricing, flexible pricing, and very flexible payment methods in terms of how the consumer can pay for the content, plus different plans in terms of the length of the subscription. Do you think that sort of complete flexibility is essential within the Vietnam market?
Yes, it is.
Sorry, just directing that very much to Harini. Thank you, Bikhan.
Flexibility is important. So in fact, I would say there are 3 elements, right, that are important for a platform like ours. The first is the content, and the second is the technology. And then third comes all the other things, right? The flexibility, ability to watch on multiple devices, the overall offering, all of that drive consumer experience. But I think for us, it's always been content at the heart of it.
Yeah.
That really drives what users do on your platform and whether they come to your platform. So I might sound like a broken record, but for us, it's always content first. We come from a content production background as well. So Galaxy, you may know, is one of the leading film producers in Vietnam. And we have a long history of film distribution as well. So we believe we really understand what the Vietnam consumer wants to watch. And we keep refining that knowledge. We keep upgrading and enhancing our content library. And for us, really having the best content for digital consumption is the key to success in this industry.
Fantastic. That's great to hear from a video content industry perspective. I think we love to hear that content hasn't just become a means to an end. But so, Greg, just going to you on the issue of affordability, a more sort of tangential question, and one that Tan alluded to earlier in the conversation. With full digitization having been concluded in December 2020 and 80% of the Vietnamese consumers now having access to DTT, do you believe that better digital consumer experience could affect the growth of the VOD market?
So, look, I think the online TV business, if to hesitate and not use OTT, the online TV business is not just TV online anymore. It is we've already talked about the ability for new markets to experience content that if it had been up to a broadcast scheduler, you would have never seen, for example, Vietnamese content in Turkey or vice versa.
Yeah, exactly.
And the kind of emancipation of that and being able to get an offer, if you believe you can find an audience, then I believe, and we've seen that, the tech cost is now low enough. You've got services like Vuulr that you can build a balanced library. You're able to go to market, even for just one or two people. If you've got a bit of funding, you can go to market and find an audience. So I think, look, I don't necessarily think that TV is dying. I'm not a TV is dying kind of guy, but I think that if you have an expectation in your business and you're fully invested in TV, that you need to look at digital to protect those revenues. And, because the audience is already there. We talked about YouTube. YouTube is the ultimate AVOD. And, we're in the age of fast moving consumer video. And I think if there's any advice that I would give from a marketing background is, and I love the distribution conversation that we've just had. Coca-Cola, okay? You can buy Coca-Cola in a small can in a convenience store or a big gulp kind of thing in the cinema. And actually, pretty much anywhere you go, there's a different serving size, but it's the same product. So if you as a content owner might make the choice to be the equivalent of Coca-Cola, or you might say, actually, no, I'm more of a sophisticated, you can only buy this in my store. So I'm a deli, so you probably increase your costs. But what we're talking about here really is, what is your go-to-market? How do you go direct to consumer? And if I was to give any advice to any organization coming out of a TV world, is hire a marketeer from an FMCG background. Go to market where that Coca-Cola, they advertise every single day, because they know that when you go into the convenience store and you open the cooler, you've got probably 15 different choices. And that is the case now when somebody picks up their phone or turns on their TV, they can watch content from anywhere in the world, pirated or not. But the fact is, if you can create an engaging enough experience at the right price point, and clearly content economics is going to be a factor in that, but you make it engaging enough. BTS, sure, BTS is a massive band, but they made $20 million from a single concert because they made it engaging and people could buy little things to wave at the screen, and it was a fan engaging experience. This is TV content. Okay, we're not selling toilet roll here. This is some of the best product in the world. And, if we can't get excited about it from a marketer, and if you think about how FMCGs get excited about, in what in many cases are not great products, if we can do the same way as an industry around TV product, the TV content, then I think that, no matter what distribution is like, we can build businesses. Clearly, as a technology provider, we see that distributing content to multiple devices is incredibly important, including the big screen.
Yes, and I think we've all seen, and Tan mentioned today, the sale of smart TVs has grown exponentially in Vietnam. So with that, the big screen experience is still one that people really enjoy having. So Ian, Greg mentioned economics of content, and I think this is something that you probably are looking to deal with as much as anybody on this platform. But the success-based fees that Vuulr offers buyers, do you think that provides a bit of comfort in terms of making buyers less risk-averse when it comes to purchasing decisions?
Yeah, this is an interesting topic because it really depends on how you look at it from the perspective. But I certainly think it's a interesting and good step forward for the industry. The positive for a seller is that if you have a piece of content, you have more opportunity to sell that content to more platforms who can look at your piece of content and decide that whilst they may not be sure about it, it's worth trying it as a test, as an experiment, and that they can come to you with either a pure success or a pure success with a reasonable MG and try your content. So that might be, trying Latin American content on, shall we say, a Vietnamese VOD platform to see if it can work, because you don't have to pay a big fee up front. If it does work, then of course you've opened up a new opportunity. So that's great for a seller who's been able to kind of try, get his content tried out in many, many different other places. For the programmer, for the scheduler, if you're scheduling a traditional linear channel, you've got to schedule for the middle of the road. And that means that you have to make relatively safe choices for the content that you acquire, because it's got to give you the GRPs to deliver what you need. But if you're buying for a VOD platform, one of the free ad-supporting streaming platforms, and you can buy with a performance element to it, then equally, the other side of that same equation, you can start to experiment with more interesting types of content from other parts of the world and find those niches that really resonate and will pull the audience, acquire a new audience, find content that's going to help you retain audience that isn't the same old, that is there present on every other platform or any other broadcast platform. So it allows you to explore the tastes that your audience will engage with. And when you find the groove, obviously, to be able to ramp that up. So I think it's great for audiences. It's great for platforms with audiences because they can experiment, and it's great for sellers. But the transition from a single flat fee negotiated up front to one where the risk is shared between the seller and the buyer is one that the industry is still getting comfortable with. There are still some sellers that don't feel comfortable with a risk, with a shared risk model. Say it cost me 20 million to make, I can only price it at this point. I think they need to understand that the only price point is what the audience will pay to watch it. Nothing else matters.
Of course. Thank you for that. One last question before we have to wrap up. Harini, I just directed at you. What do you see as the biggest impediment to growth of a VOD platform, and specifically your VOD platform? But what do you see as the biggest impediment?
One of the key market challenges that I think all of us face, whether we're on the VOD side or a content provider like Vuulr, is the piracy issue. It's a broader market challenge across Asia. And the Vietnam government has been taking steps to combat this. But unfortunately, just the number of pirated websites have been mushrooming as well. It's something that I do think consumer habit is changing over time, but it's still a problem we need to solve as a broader industry. And we hope the Vietnam government will help take more stringent measures against it.
Fantastic. Thank you. And that's something that my colleague Aaron will discuss later as well when we talk about piracy in a little bit more detail. So thank you for that. So just in terms of concluding, and I'm so sorry we haven't had a chance to get to all the questions, but please feel free to share it with AVIA and we'll try and direct them accordingly. We've heard this morning that OTT is on a steep curve in terms of revenue growth and subscription, but the share of market and profitability is still small. Aside from a robust and differentiated content offering that appeals to a Vietnamese audience, it seems the flexibility on pricing, packaging, device access is all crucial for VOD if it's going to upend a market that is still quite traditional. Consumption of content online is on the increase, and with access to global digital catalogs where VOD operators can cherry pick content based on their own user data without the legacy output deals or large flat fees, hopefully profitability and an increase in market share will follow. So once again, to all my panelists this morning, thank you all so very much for your time and for sharing your insights so freely. Stay safe, everybody. Back to Louis.
Thank you very much, Celeste. And thank you as well to Ms. Han, Greg, Harini, and Ian. Now, we got one more session until we take a break for lunch. And as we know, nothing happens in the video industry without the technology that underpins it. So in this next session, we're going to explore all the different types of technology that enhance the consumer experience, add to the value of the content. From a business perspective, we're going to address how technology can be viewed as an investment, how technology helps profitability, and how ROI is being measured. So to take us through these technical questions in the world of technology and more, please welcome James Miner, the CEO of Miner Labs and Video Assure, to introduce his panelists. James, over to you.